great privilege for you to share your afternoon with me and with us as a group. My name is Dotun Ayodele. I represent a group known as Side Gigs and Extra Bar. We're a group of gentlemen who are focused on personal and financial development. And we've been running these seminars since early this year on different subject matters. Today, we'll be talking about real estate investments and the opportunities that exist for us. We have three panelists who will be sharing their expertise and their experiences with us. And I will be plugging in as the accountant who can say a thing or two from that perspective. And so that's pretty much the plan. But before we get started, I'll give each of our panelists, Angel, Jide, and Kennedy, to just tell us briefly about themselves. And then Angel will kick off the discussion around real estate investments. So right now, we'll start with Angel.
Thank you, Dotun. Why are you always putting me on the spot? Why do I have to go first?
Because you're the lady, you're the queen you're the queen around here right now.
All right, thanks for having me here. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Angel Godson Onumejo. I am a real estate associate with Remax House of Real Estate. I've been doing this for 4 years now. So I am licensed to practice in residential, commercial, and investment side of real estate. So yeah, and I do have a life too. I'm married, I've got 2 lovely kids, and yeah, this is what I do full-time, real estate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angel, for sharing that brief summary. Jide, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, my name is Jide Kupoluyi. Obviously, I'm a lawyer, as Dr. said. I've been practicing law for well over 25 years, but part of it outside of Canada, but in another common law country, basically Nigeria, before moving to Canada over 10 years ago. And since then, I've, recertified as a lawyer here. And my major practice area has been in the area of real estate and corporate and commercial and estate. But a great part of it is real estate, both residential and commercial. So I've accrued, a lot of experience in this area. I've been a real estate investor. It's an area I've been interested in, especially back, where my other country. So I was a real estate investor there. So it's something that is very close to my heart. And while here too, I've been developing myself as a real estate investor, apart from being a real estate lawyer. So I know, some rubrics about, this game. And yeah, I've been practicing law here, real estate, and, always available to help. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jide, for your brief introduction. Now, Kennedy, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm meeting all of you for the first time except Jide. Hi, Angel, and hi, team. Is it team or time?
Team.
All right, team. So my name is Kennedy. I'm originally a nurse from Africa, but these days I call myself an entrepreneur. Yeah, I do business. So I came here 7 years ago. I own a business. I own a home care agency, and I do real estate. I've been investing in real estate for 5 years. So it's a pleasure to meet you, Angel. And that's the most important part of meeting like-minded people like this. So I invest in real estate, and that's how I met Jide, because I had to do a real estate transaction through him. And from there, we've become friends. So I look forward to sharing my knowledge and story. Apart from owning a business, running real estate, I think I'm fast becoming a social media influencer. And I also do business consultancy for people who want to do the same business that I do. So that's a little about me. Nice to meet you.
Fantastic. Thank you for all choosing to be here, and we really appreciate this. So without taking any more time, Angel, the floor is yours. Tell us, you're the specialist, you're the professional, you're the one who knows this business. So what your spiel as far as real estate investing is concerned? Do you have a set of slides you want to share? Please go ahead and share it.
Okay, so I can share my screen, correct? All right. My screen. Can you guys see my screen?
You can see a big zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me look for my presentation here. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we have this now.
Okay. All right. So I just have a short presentation here. So I'm just going to touch on as little or as many things as possible. And sorry, give me a sec. I have someone who's asking me if the program has started. Let me try to share the link with him again. I don't know if he has it. So just spare me a few seconds here. Sorry, guys. All right, so yeah, we'll be talking about real estate, like investing in real estate. A few things we're going to touch on today. We're going to talk about what an investment is, the benefits of real estate investing. I'll give you a little information about the Calgary market as of today. And we'll talk about your readiness check to investing in real estate, the roadmap, and some common mistakes that people make. If I'm going too fast, please feel free to stop me. I'm thinking I will just go through the presentation and then we can go through like questions and answers afterwards. I did receive a few questions from Mr. Doughton that people, like questions they had in their head. So I'll try and see if I can touch on those as I go on with the presentation, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So basically, investing is kind of limiting your current consumption, right, in favor of your future consumption. So it's something that you do, you know, like a commitment that you have to make for a period of time in order for you to gain some benefits, and also a process of maximizing wealth down the road. Now let's take a little break and think about this, okay? Because I see people you know, they always have in their mind about investing, but then they don't sit down to really think about what this whole process is like. So now I love the saying a lot by Robert Arnott. He says, in investing, what is comfortable is rarely profitable. So you have to know that you're gonna get out of your comfort zone, you know, kind of get yourself into situations where it's not very, very comfortable for you if you're looking into going into real estate investment. I know some of our panelists here that are into that. They would agree with this saying for sure. So now, what is an investment property? So it is a real estate property that you purchase with intention to gain profit or to accumulate wealth. And there are a few different types of real estate investment that we could choose. So you can decide to go into industrial real estate, which kind of comprises rather of you purchasing like a building, you know, that you could lease out to manufacturers, for warehouse spaces, businesses who do like who store lots of inventory. So a typical example would be Amazon, for example. So Amazon's got a warehouse. It's possible they own the warehouse or they're leasing the warehouse from a different person. So from an investor who had purchased that for just the purpose of leasing to businesses and what do you call them? So people who use them for like storage, keeping their goods, and using them for manufacturing, production, and stuff. Now, some benefits of real estate investing, definitely one of them is your cash flow. So that comes from your rental income. The future resale. So future resale is basically the property increasing in value. So when you buy a property today, there is a good tendency that that property is going to increase in value, right? Over the years, it's definitely going to increase. So when, as a real estate agent, I know sometimes when I'm going to list a property for a client, for example, we look at the property, they've owned it for, let's say, 10, 12 years, for example, and you can see on the title, or they even tell you that this property, like they bought it for like, let's say $300,000 less than what it's worth in today's market. So that is one good benefits of real estate investing. So, and in the process, basically what's happening here is that you're growing your net worth by leveraging other people's money, right? So now a question, why do we invest in real estate? So there are basically long-term benefits to that, right? Number one is there is a very high degree of personal control that you would have as an investor. If we compare real estate investing compared to like investing in stocks, for example, sometimes you don't really have control of what happens in the stock market, right? But for real estate, to a huge extent, you have that control over what's going on with your investment. And then most times there is a higher than average rate of return. That is when the economy is stable, okay? So I tell people all the time, because they feel like, oh yeah, I'm buying this, I'm investing, I must make money out of it. So I tell my clients all the time, for example, you're buying a property, you need to give it time, you know, to actually give you a return. So there are some of them that we can do like very quick return on our investment. So then we're talking about flipping properties, basically. So you're buying a property, for example, that's, let's say, sold below market value, and then you're renovating and putting it back on the market. Okay, yes, that's quick, you know, rate of return on that one. And then the cash flow is kind of safe, right? Because it's predictable. Like most of the time, we are able to predict a cash flow from an investment property, and it goes that way. But when we see times like this, when the economy is a little bit unstable, we just have to adjust according to what the economy is looking like. But that doesn't mean that it is a failed investment. There is, like, don't get me wrong, sometimes, but we're gonna talk about that later on. Sometimes people make wrong decisions, but at the end of the day, right, it still boils down to you getting to do your research and make sure you're talking to a professional who's gonna guide you, you know, through the process. So there is a huge potential for you to recover your capital on that investment through refinancing. So let's talk a little bit about refinancing. So refinancing is you purchasing a property today. Let's say you buy an investment property, you put down 20%, for example, down payment. And in 2 years thereabouts or more, you go back to the bank and say, hey, you know what, I want to refinance this property. So then the bank goes back and they do an appraisal on that property. And if the price comes higher than, you know, what you purchased the property for, then the bank is able to give you back, you know, a certain amount of money depending on what the appraisal comes out. And then this is what dealing with physical properties, right? Physical things that you can see. So there is less risk of it becoming valueless. Like if you look at today, for example, when you look in the inner city of Calgary, you see lots of, you know, older communities, houses being bought, demolished, and, you know, built back. So I tell you what's happening right there is this. Now those properties might have been old, they are over 70 years, whatever age the houses or the communities are, but the land value, right, is still there. So people who bought those homes so many years ago, they've made money not just on the property. Let's say for today, the property is all old and needs to be ripped down or torn down. That same property, the land itself is worth the amount of money. And so they still make money out of it. So that's the good thing about real estate investing. There is very, very less risk of it becoming valueless. And also there is a limited or little equity on investing in that, because you're kind of leveraging, the mortgage you get through financing. Most times someone might have a huge amount of money, they want to buy an investment property, and you talk to a real estate agent and they let you know, okay, you know what, instead of putting this whole money in here, buying just this one property, why don't we, leverage the banks, put this monies as down payments into different properties, and then you're building your portfolio, basically. So the great thing about property investment, like I said before, there's a passive income, there's the potential for growth, there is the stability, it is predictable, like I said, and there is that chance of it increasing in value, which happens most of the time. Okay. All right, so a quick look at the Calgary markets. I know people want to know this for sure, because you're sitting there and you're wondering, oh, I hear that the market is down. It's a buyer's market. Yes, it is a buyer's market. Our market is down. For the past 5 years, we've been experiencing like a very weak economy here in Alberta. So that has affected the real estate market as well, okay? But earlier this year, there was a projection that the real estate market was supposed to pick up in the last quarter of this year. But with the COVID-19 that started in March, so that kind of moved things backwards a little bit. It's been like a very, very tough time for our province. But with the way things are going right now and all the measures that the government is putting into place, so it's not going to affect us beyond what it is right now. That's a summary of it all, right? We've hit in kind of the low point of our market. So we're gradually going to see changes as long as the economy, things are beginning to open up. So as long as the economy continues like that and the whole COVID-19 is blown away just like that, we're definitely going to see improvement. But yes, it is still a buyer's market. And I do get these questions all the time. A buyer's market, yeah, our market has been low for the past few years. So don't expect, because of COVID-19, for example, a home ordinarily you purchase for 500, don't expect it to become 400,000, okay? There is the COVID-19 and all the fears that comes with that and everything happening with the economy, but our market is still holding strong as much as it can, because we already experienced this downturn in the past 4 or 5 years. So as of May, we're in June now. So as of May, this was our total sales. So year to date, 4,835. So that's a 26% decline compared to previous years, okay? And the average real estate price right now in Calgary is $443,000, $575. And that's a 7% decline again compared to like year to year, all right? So our inventory in Calgary, so when I say Calgary real estate inventory, that also covers like our neighboring cities, so Airdrie, Chestermere, and the rest. So right now we have 5,800 properties on the market. So this includes attached, detached, duplexes, multiplexes, commercial properties as well. So now going back to our topic here. So there are a few things you need to look out for before you get into investing in real estate. So that's what I call the readiness check. So as an individual, there are things you need to do on your own. So you need to figure out what your needs are. That's very, very important. So this whole summary here is kind of talking about what your goals are. So you check out what your needs are, the things that you think are necessary, and then you're going to think about how much capital you have, right? For those who are going to get mortgages, so you're going to look at your financial status to see how much capital you have for your investment. And then you got to think about your risk tolerance, right? Because with every single investment that we think about or we want to go into, there's always that chance of, you know, there is an uncertainty, you're exposing yourself, you're making yourself, you know, vulnerable to, let's say, a financial loss that could happen. So you got to get yourself prepared. Think about what, how much of a risk can you really take, right? And then most important, the return on your investment. So whatever profits you're thinking in your head, you think you want to make. So some prerequisites to this, getting into real estate investments, you got to have a reliable cash flow. You just don't jump into real estate investment. There's a lot that comes with investing in real estate. So you got to do your research thoroughly. So do your research, ask questions, talk to your professionals, your accountant, your realtor, your lawyer. Just talk to all the professionals you have around you so they can guide you, you know, in different aspects of the process of investing in real estate. And then you need to have a defined financial goal. So now talking about reliable cash flow, I'm going to touch on that a little bit. So a typical example is if you're looking into, let's say you're looking into buying properties for rental, okay? So now you buy the property for rental, you need to keep in mind that once you've closed on this transaction, if you got a mortgage on this property, for example, someone has to pay the mortgage, someone has to pay the property taxes, someone has to pay the utility bills until you're able to get the tenants. So that's where it's very important. You need to think about your financial situation before you jump into real estate investing. And then we talk about people who, I hear people ask me questions a lot talking about flipping real estate properties. Now that is another part of real estate that needs a very good cash flow and capital. Because you got to think about purchasing the property. You got to think about the cost for renovations. And you also got to think about your carrying costs. So your carrying cost here is basically paying the mortgage, paying your property taxes, utilities, everything while the construction is ongoing. So if you're there and you're thinking about buying a property to flip, for example, you need to give yourself some good period of time. From the time you purchase, the time you do your renos, depending on how much renovation you want to do, and the time it's going to go on the market and then it sells. So sometimes you could need as much as 6 months if you're doing a flip. So you need to have a good and a reliable cash flow to be able to carry those expenses, you know, throughout the period of time before the property is sold. So same thing applies to when you're purchasing a property for rental, or you're purchasing an industrial property for, you know, for the purpose of leasing it out, right? So pay attention to this. Yeah, so this is still just talking. I can't emphasize, you know, too much on this, but yes, it is very, very important when you're preparing to invest in real estate. Know your financial situation, choose your investment strategy, identify your target market. So identifying your target market, for example, do you want to do rentals? Do you want to lease to, you know, manufacturers, to people who need space for storage and stuff like that? What is your target market? And then when you know your target market, then you can define the kind of property that you intend to invest in. So like I said, I'm still talking on this. It's very important. Research and analysis, very, very important. Your financial, you know, situation, prepare yourself, and then you select the property. So I did have a question, you know, about group ownership in one of the presentations that I gave a few weeks ago. So I just decided to bring that, I decided to bring that as well to this presentation, just because I know there are some people in this meeting today that might be thinking about group investing. So there are different ways you could come as a group to invest in real estate. So the common one, which even happens with our residential properties that we purchase, is the tenants in common. So that is just a small group of, you know, investors coming together, pulling their investment together, and, you know, purchasing a property for whatever reason they want to use it for. So these ones, they apply to everybody and their individual personal, you know, for taxes purpose, it is all personal to everyone who has invested. And there is the corporate ownership. So just like it sounds, the corporation is going to be on title. So these are people who, you know, come together and set up a corporation for the purpose of real estate investing. And there is the partnership part of it where, you know, a group of people just coming together with undivided interest, you know, to invest together. And there is the limited partnership. So the difference between the limited partnership and the partnership is that the limited partnership, I think there is one person who is a general, you know, partner who has like unrestricted liability, you know, in that investment. But the limited partners, they have, you know, according to what capital that they invest, that is as much as the liability that they have as well. And then the final one is a joint venture. So that's basically people pulling their resources together with an undivided interest as well. So that one thing that's not very positive about the joint venture is it's very difficult to, you know, use this means to secure additional finances from the bank, for example, because it's hard to use, you know, an undivided interest as a collateral. So just a few things. We're going to talk more on this. Maybe personally, when people ask me questions, I can answer them, like go deeper into that. But that's just an overview of the different types of group ownership that could exist out there. So some common pitfalls in real estate investing is 4 of them here. So I have failing to research. That's the big thing. When you fail to research, you're just preparing yourself to fail. All right. And also making decisions impulsively. You know, this is not an emotional purchase or buying a real estate property out of, you know, how you feel about the property. You're thinking investment, so you're not going to be deciding impulsively. You're going to sit down and strategize with your real estate professionals, your accountants and everything before you jump into that. Another problem that we find is mismanaging of the cash flow. So when people have rental property, they think every positive cash flow that you have, you just have to spend it and, you know, finish everything up, forgetting that you have to take care of maintenance, right? So when you have a cash flow, you need to know how to apportion this monies, just so when you have a problem or an issue with your investment property, for example, you're not, you know, just lost and looking for finances to take care of those issues, especially if you're having like a huge, let's say you have like a fourplex, for example, and there's something happening with the furnace in the building or something like that. Those are kind of capital expenses. So you need to make provisions for that. Now, when you get to that point where you have a very huge portfolio, it's not a good idea to self-manage. You need to hire experts to do this if you don't have, you know, that expertise to handle it. So keep that in mind. So pretty much, okay, these are just testimonials. I think I've talked, this is what my presentation is like today. These are just ways to get in touch with me, about me. And yeah, thank you. And I'll take questions now, or if we're taking questions later, you let me know. Now, before sorry, one more thing. I opened up the questions that came on the group, on Eventbrite, sorry. So someone asked a question about how do you ascertain a viable investment in the short and long term. So the summary of this is research, okay? Research, research, research. And when you're doing the research, you're not doing it on your own. You gotta be talking to your real estate professional, because we have the information that you don't have. You can see a property today and you're like, oh my God, look at this, this is a duplex, or this is a fourplex. This home is so cheap, or this is a condo, it's $100,000, wow. This is amazing. I have this money, I want to throw it in there. You don't do that. It's very important. Do your research. Okay. Now I tell you a typical issue that I've seen happen all the time. I've had clients call me, hey, Angel, I saw this condo. It's going for $80,000. It's a good idea. Let's just go buy it. I'm like, pause right there. Okay. You just don't go buy it. We got to do a research on that. So most of the time when we do our research as realtors, we find out there is a bigger problem than, you know, the client can see. And then we just share that issue, you know, with them. Whatever findings we have, we share it with them and let them know what to expect, just so there are no surprises along the way. Not every investment you see right there or the price looks too good. It's not, you know, it's not always as good as it looks, all right? And then someone asked about how to structure your application to get a mortgage. So it all depends on what your situation is when you talk about structuring your application to get a mortgage. So basically, the most important things in getting a mortgage or credit in this country, as we all know, number one, you need to keep a very good credit history, okay? Your credit history needs to be good. Make sure your bills, you're paying them on time, your credit cards, your car loans, whatever debts you have, just to maintain that good credit. And then you need to have income good enough to qualify you for the kind of property that you're looking to purchase. And then down payments is also very important as well, okay? How to maximize first-time home buyer perks and tax benefit as a real estate investor. So when we talk about tax planning, that's mostly gonna be an accountant's question. In talking about maximizing first-time home buyer perks, yes, if you're a first-time home buyer, definitely there are programs out there to help you out, including the one that was introduced last year, where the government matches your down payments. And then, you know, just to help in return, wait a minute, the government matches your down payments and getting like a 50% equity on your property. But what that does is it helps reduce your monthly payment on your mortgages. That would be all the questions I'll take for now. So if there are other questions coming into the group, I'll answer them as we go. Let me not take everybody's time. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Angel. Really appreciate that. That's you set us off on a very, very good start. Clear picture of what the investment opportunities like. Nice plug in there about the current state of the Calgary market and the opportunities that exist in there. At least that means people can start to look around. Yeah. So before we go to Kennedy to hear his story, I'll ask Jide to talk a bit about the common pitfalls, common mistakes he has seen real estate investors make, whether they are first-time buyers, whether they are, there are some rookie errors, then there are experienced people errors, whatever he has seen in his practice as the kind of mistakes that real estate investors make and how we can mitigate them. So Jide, over to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. I will say I'm sorry, I'm not like an angel. I don't have, slides of, formal presentation, but I will go through my note, to let you know, based on my experience, what I believe you should be looking at when engaging in real estate investment from the legal perspective, not from an investor perspective like Kennedy and Angel, will address. So basically, the first thing I would say is that if you are, can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Great. So the first thing I would say is that ensure you have a lawyer who understands real estate investment on your side. Some of these real estate investments, they involve some creative, as Kennedy may let you know later, they involve some creative real estate investment strategies. And not all lawyers are familiar with it. So if you are, the traditional way of investing is buy and hold or buy and flip immediately. But this one has gone beyond that. There are other strategies, to invest in real estate without putting down so much money. I will not be going into that. Only that, like I said, I, got information, went into courses about this, and I know a little bit about this. So that's why I say you need to have a lawyer who knows about real estate investment and who will protect your interest and ensure that, you get the best out of the deal. Having said that, I will not go into the issue of partnering with another person to buy real estate for investment, because some of the time you may not have all the deposits to put down to buy the investment, especially if you have one or two already and you are already exhausted, you don't have access to mortgage, and you need to, partner with somebody for down payment or whatever. Then in that case, you will need to partner with somebody. You will need to partner with another person, for real estate investment, and you have to be careful about this. Ensure that you have a good joint JV agreement in place. Otherwise, you may be setting out yourself for serious problem down the line. You need to, also, of course, you need to select the person you are dealing with, and if you have done that, then ensure you have an agreement that will address what will be the capital contributions of both parties or all the parties involved. How do you share your profit? How do you manage the asset? How do you raise additional capital if it has to come to that? Because down the line, you may buy a property, you need to renovate. Unfortunately, things have not gone the way you expected. You need more money to bring in to, address whatever comes up. And then there's need for more money. And then you have not addressed this in your agreement to say, if this happens, this person brings this, or if this person brings, then this is how we go to readdress the issue of sharing the profit. So some of these things are just the way you have to, you need to have in place a JV agreement. If you also address the issue of how do you, when the money comes in, or the contribution, how do you, manage it? How do you open bank accounts? You have joint signatories, all of those things. What about dispute resolution? When that happens, there are bound to be dispute. There may be dispute. If you don't set it up right at the beginning, then if that investment will be scattered and then it goes to waste. So you need to address some of these issues up front in an agreement. And that's why you also need a lawyer by your side to help you draft some of these things. Yeah, you can do this by yourself, but as a professional, I would say that it might just be better to engage a lawyer, pay some little amount of money, to save yourself the headache, down the line. Now, when Ninja was also talking, she mentioned about the issue of partnering with another person and doing a kind of, tenancy in common as a means of, doing it. You also have to ensure that if you are doing this, you need to be sure that this is properly captured. Otherwise, there may be trouble. Now, the default for real estate, when you're having two persons, doing real estate, is that they may say it is what is called joint tenancy. Now, there's a difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common, and this is very clear. You need to let your lawyer know this when you are, registering your title. Otherwise, you might be in big trouble. And the reason is this: joint tenancy, which is usually the default for title registration, if the lawyer does not know, it has what they call right of survivorship. What it means is that if two of you are on a title and they say it's joint tenancy, what it means is that if any of us dies, the other person automatically becomes the 100% owner of that asset. So if you don't state on title that this is going to be a tenancy in common, then it means that the person, even though that person actually invested 20%, is going to be getting 100%. His family will not inherit his own share of the asset of the property. But if you let your lawyer know, because some of the time when we are doing business, my own practice is that we had the buyer, my client, to say, how do you want to be described on title? He will now say, oh, Jide and Femi, as joint tenants of so place. But some lawyers just assume and they put joint tenancy because they believe either you are partners or you are spouses and co, especially when banks are financing. But for tenancy in common, it allows you to state right on the spot on title that the percentage of your interest in the property. For instance, if I'm putting down 20% and Kennedy is putting down 80%, you will see on title that so person holds 20% in this asset. Kennedy has to 20% of the property. So I don't know if there's any problem, if anything happens to any of us, his family or my family get to inherit my own part of it, and then they will share it accordingly. You cannot inherit my own part of it. So we have to be careful when dealing with that aspect of it. So that is why, again, you may need a lawyer. A good lawyer knows how to do this on your side. The other thing I want to mention is that ensure that you go through the contract before you buy. Your realtor would have done a good job for you selecting the property, helping you to do the research, whether it's viable or not. But while you are, signing the property, ensure you go through before you finally sign. There are so many issues to address in the contract. You want to, be sure that all loopholes, have been captured. If, for instance, there's a secondary suite involved or there's a basement involved, does he have, the city permit? Because your intention is to possibly rent out basement apart from the upper floor, to make more money. But if you're having a basement suite that does not have city permit, many tenants may be wary, of renting out that place. And if they are not wary, down the line, the city may come and then they ask you to, fix it or get permit for some of the development, and the cost could be hefty. So if you have not addressed that and you have to cough out that kind of amount down the line, it could really, really impact on your investment. And I've seen places, I've had with the case where the city just comes, the neighbors reported, somebody that is using the basement or whatever, and they are seeing so many people there, and they say, oh, they now found that it doesn't have a permit for that basement, and they say he has to rectify. And they took him to court, a criminal case, and the fine we involved was brought into thousands of dollars. So these are some of the things you need to address. Go through the contract, ask your realtor some questions. So is there any need for holdback? If your seller needs to address some issues on the property, maybe there's a problem with a faucet is leaking, or the furnace is not doing well, he needs to replace it, or there are some electrical problems. Who is going to handle it? Are you going to handle it and deduct it from the purchase price? If not, is there going to be a holdback? If there's going to be a holdback, how do you handle the holdback? Who keeps the holdback? Is it your lawyer or the seller's lawyer? I normally prefer the buyer's lawyer. And you need to put this in contract that if you don't do it, if you leave it hanging, then you are giving your lawyer a big problem, because at the end of the day, if you allow the seller's lawyer to hold the holdback, then if there's a problem, it will normally, default to the side of his client. So these are some of the issues, you need to address. Is the holdback sufficient? Have they done, that to say, oh, if this guy needs to replace the furnace and it doesn't replace it, how much are you setting back as the holdback? When you have agreed on the holdback, when is it forfeited? Is it forfeited when, the seller does not do the job? And, all of those things. These are issues that it should never be left hanging. I've seen so many contracts that are left hanging, and then when it comes to closing, it becomes a big problem, and then you are fighting. By that time it's too late. Your lawyer cannot do anything because the contract is already signed, and then what the lawyer is doing at that stage is to implement it. If you have any questions, if you are not sure, ask a lawyer to help you review the contract, just to be sure that all the postings are being covered. The other thing I will mention is the issue of as an investor, you're also looking at most likely renting out, the property you are buying. You need to be familiar with the Alberta. I'm talking of Alberta, and I'm a lawyer in Alberta, so I don't know for other places, but I do know that places also have Residential Properties Act. Most commercial properties are not covered by, they don't have a specific statute governing them. But when it comes to residential property, because what you are investing is not an office complex, is majorly residential. You're having some doors in your portfolio and you are renting them out. So you need to be familiar with the Residential Properties Act. What are your rights under the Act? What are the rights of the tenant under the Act? If you need to give a notice, how much days or months you need to give to terminate a tenancy? What are the move in and move out inspection report? Do you need to do it? If you don't do it, what happens to the deposit? Can you take, for instance, you have the right to request for a secure deposit for 1 month, right? But if you don't do the move out inspection as required by law, you cannot take money from that deposit to address any damage caused by the tenant, or either is not cleaning or it causes damage. You cannot do it. So you need to ensure that you do all of these things, and both parties must sign that, move out inspection. It is mandatory. You must do it. You must give landlords notice about 7 days after the client's movings and all of those things. So there are so many provisions of that law that you need to look at so that you don't infringe on it. At what point can you terminate a tenancy? What constitutes fundamental breach, of a tenancy to entitle you to give just 14 days notice or 24 hours notice, to quit, a tenant and all of that. Secondly, you need to qualify your tenant very, very well. Kennedy may be able to speak more to this, I don't know, but I think it's absolutely important that you ensure that the tenant you are putting into place is the kind of tenant you want. There are some tenants that are called tenants from hell. There are tenants who really, will give you terrible headache. They will damage your property and they will leave without you being able to, they will just disappear to thin air. So you need to be sure that when you are taking a tenant, you ask for their history. There's a form, that they need to fill that will extract necessary information for you. Maybe you need to take references, and all of that to ensure that maybe you need to look at the ability of the tenant to pay. And if you cannot manage the property yourself, maybe you need to get a professional, property manager so that you are fit to do some other things. But it's important you qualify, your tenant and all as a question and all of that. Then again, if you are looking at, Angel did mention about buying a property that you may need to hold, is not something you may need to rush into, and especially maybe you say within the next few months or 1 year or even 5 years. You may need to have the property appreciate before you tell me why you collect your rent. But that's where you see some opportunity that you need to quickly buy a property because of the value it needs. Maybe you see a foreclosure that you want to buy. What do? Do you need to, for instance, because of title, you need to take title insurance? I normally recommend title insurance for my clients. And apart from that, if your intention is to flip, you see the value of the property that you can just renovate and sell within the next 6 months or 1 year, then you need to work with your mortgage broker to ensure that you don't lock yourself into a 5-year mortgage. This is extremely important. Otherwise, the penalty you pay at the end of the day for breaking the mortgage might just destroy your the value, the surplus you are expecting to make from the deal. So if you work with your mortgage broker, you may just have 1 year, a mortgage, or 2 years a mortgage, and maybe the worst is that maybe the interest may be a bit higher initially, but you are not going to be living with the hefty penalty if you decide to sell the property down the line, and then you have to pay the penalty to the lender for breaking the transaction. So again, if you are also buying a condo that you are renting, the intention is to rent, you need to be familiar with the condo papers. When you are buying, there are a bunch of papers that will be given to you, to review. Ensure that you review it properly. They deal with reserve fund, they deal with their bylaws, they deal with so many aspects of it. You need to either review this thing yourself, or you get an expert or somebody who's good at reviewing to do it for you. For instance, they need to look at the reserve fund. How much does the condo board have in reserve fund? If there's a major problem, that a major repair they need to do to the condo, do they have sufficient reserve fund to address it? If they don't, and you have not, engaged somebody or reviewed the papers well, you can be, having to pay very, very big amount of money contribution, at the end of the year, to address that. It could be running to thousands of dollars, which may really affect the margin you are expecting to make from your investment, which of course you cannot recover this from the tenant. So these are some of the things you need to do. Check the condo papers, check that they have sufficient reserve fund. Again, check the bylaws. What do they allow? Bylaws, and especially the condo act requires that if you are bringing a tenant, you need to inform the condo board that a tenant is coming, give them the information. When the tenant is going, you also need to let them know. If you don't, you are setting yourself for a fine with the condo board. They will fine you and all of that. They may even, commence actions against you. Ensure you pay your condo, your condo fees regularly, and even if you are recovering from the tenant. So you need to look at some of these things before you go into your investment. I think basically these are some of the few I've noted, but I'm open for questions, and I think most of these things, will come through questioning. I'm available, and if at any point in time you also need my help, to help you regarding your investment, your purchase, I'm always available. My email address is jk@jklawoffice.ca, and my phone number is 403-454-9864. I think Dr. may be able to put in the chat box later, or may do that later, so that in case you need to contact me for any, for any help you require. But I'm here anyways, to answer, your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jide. That was just fantastic. So quickly recapping, you said we should, when we are doing business together, partnership agreements are key. Something about tenancy agreements and co-tenancy that you brought up, and survivorship of agreements. You also said we should review contracts properly and in detail, and particularly look at holdbacks and who is going to do what, and be specific in them in the agreements. And you mentioned qualifying your tenants, and you said Kennedy will be a good plug on this. So now we'll go to Kennedy. Kennedy, you are the one that is doing what many of us are hoping to do sometime soon, right? So,
Yep.
So as the man, we would just like you to share your experience with us.
Okay. Can you all hear me? Good. I'm so excited to be here today. I really want to thank JK for bringing me here. I think he gave me a call last weekend. I was in Banff enjoying my weekend, and he called. I saw his call. The first thing I thought was, do we have a real estate deal somewhere, or has he seen a property somewhere? Because that's how I work with my lawyers, and I work with my real estate agents. When they see a good property, an opportunity, they call Kennedy. This is an opportunity. Can we take advantage of it? But the call was not about an opportunity in investing. It was an opportunity to share this. And I'm so happy that I can have we can talk together in such a panel. I think this is a good step and a great way to go. Real estate investing is something I've been doing and I will do for the rest of my life. So it's a passion to me now. I just go confidently. I improve myself every day. And just to say a little bit of what I do, I have been a member of the Real Estate Investment Network of Canada. I think it's the largest real estate investment network in Canada. It's been here for more than 25 years. They have real estate agents from all over the place. The reason I joined this is because when I bought my first real estate property, I did so out of just trying to learn these things. But you increase the chances of failing if you don't improve and you learn from people who've done it, if you don't partner with experts and you don't put yourself in a position of learning. That's why I joined that real estate. I always have this story. When I went to the first meeting, we were asked to introduce ourselves. I stood up. I was proud to have owned 2 properties. And I introduced myself and I said I had 2 properties. And somebody stood up beside me and said they had 64. I'm like, what? 64 properties. And I told myself, I think I'm in the right position. So we should always be looking for that place where people are doing big things. That's how you grow. It's been a big learning curve for me. Things have totally changed. And I tell my friends these days, I am born again. When I say I'm born again, I mean the old me has gone and I'm looking forward to the new me. It's all been about my home care and real estate. And those are the 2 things I live for right now at this moment. So the idea is, why real estate, or why invest in real estate? To be frank, I study businesses every day. There's nothing I can compare to real estate right now. I mean, you can bring all the stocks and bring all the profits people make, just like our sister Angel explained. There is some predictability in real estate. There is some stability, and real estate is something that is it's one of the oldest businesses. It's always been there, and it will always be there. I always remind my friends that you drive on a few square feet, millions of real estate every day. We are all sitting on a piece of real estate. The whole earth is real estate. And if you can own a piece of this earth, you make a lot of money. It's a magical way of making money. So I went into real estate because of the income. I mean, we all have a why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to invest in real estate? Why did you travel abroad? Why are you staying in Nigeria? Why are you here? Why are you doing the things you're doing? When you have that real reason why you want to do what you want to do, it brings everything else into place. So the reason I went into real estate investing, one, there's a huge potential for income. I like talking about money because I like money. We all do. And money is a big tool. So real estate, in my view, has three sources of income that generates itself almost residually. The first thing is cash flow. From my knowledge, I don't invest in a property if it doesn't produce positive cash flow. I say positive cash flow because if you don't do it the right way, it could end up taking the life out of you instead of giving you life. We all want our lives to be better. We want our lives to be stress-free. But real estate, because it involves thousands of dollars, if you don't do it the right way, and I think that's why we're all here. That's why we have an expert lawyer here. That's why we have an expert real estate agent here. If you don't do real estate the right way, it could end up adding more stress to your life rather than giving you more life. So I like the fact that before I invest in real estate, at Rain, and that's why I partner with Rain, because they give me all these tools. I have a spreadsheet where I can take a property and answer all those questions and see what's the positive cash flow on this. And this usually you can work it with agents, because real estate agents have tools that can give you the average rent in a location and how much that property is, what's the wall score, what's the tenant profile in this neighborhood, what kind of tenants are you expecting, what are the other amenities. Those are the things we consider in order to qualify a property as a positive cash flow property. So I like the fact that a property can produce a positive cash flow. And at Rain, we have a formula where when you can estimate the amount of income coming from a property and you can factor out all the possible expenses and you subtract those expenses from the income, how much is left? What is that percentage? In my calculation, it's between 8 to 10%. If a property does not fall between that cash flow range, I don't buy it because I don't want to buy somebody's problem. So when you start doing that, the price of the property doesn't matter. It's the cash flow that matters. Now, the second reason for going into real estate is, so we have the cash flow, equity. I like equity. People don't see equity, but the fact that I can put a down payment, borrow money from the bank, and somebody else helps to pay that loan for me over the years. And after a couple of years, I have 100 grand or $50,000 or 100 sitting in that house, accumulated by somebody else. That's residual income. See, I have studied entrepreneurship a lot. Fact is, by yourself, you will never make a lot of money. You can never make enough money working by yourself by the hour. I don't care how much you make per hour. You need to learn the rules of money, which is leveraging on money, providing value to other people and leveraging from their income. And that's what real estate does. Because when that person works on a job and pays for rent, of course, you have to provide them a good living environment, take good care of the house, treat them nicely so that they are happy paying you rent. And if somebody can do this over a couple of years and builds that equity, pays down that loan from the bank, and it becomes my money, that's a magical way of creating money. The third thing in real estate, just as Angel explained, is the appreciation. Real estate is an appreciating asset. It's not like a car where you buy from the dealer and the moment you drive out, they tell you the value has dropped. Real estate, I would like to use this joke. Real estate can be seen as wine. I mean, we've heard over the internet, people say fine wine, like it gets better over time. Or maybe you could say it's like women, like they get better with age. Real estate gets better with time. No matter how the markets go, averagely real estate goes on the rise. It's been increasing. If you look at 30 years back, the value of real estate is not the same today, and it will always keep increasing. Yes, we can have those dips in the market. Generally, real estate is an appreciating asset. So I want to increase and invest in an asset and in an investment that appreciates over time. So if you add up cash flow, say if your property is producing cash flow every month, and you can use that cash flow to live your life with, and that property is gathering equity over time and also appreciating. If after 15, 20 years, you add these three, it will be a huge return on your investment. So that's the reason why I invest in real estate. The type of real estate I invest in, of course, I'm open to investing in other real estate properties, but so far I have been investing in single residential properties in Calgary. And I say Calgary is because we have this idea of geographic specialization. Pick a particular area, And even in Calgary, I pick a particular zone and I focus on that zone. The advantage of doing this is that you get to know the economics of that environment better. Rather than having one property in Ontario, one in Calgary, one in Edmonton, you get to be scattered all over the place. So I have been investing so far in residential real estate in properties. And the goal, my vision is to end up owning multifamily, because I know the advantages in multifamily are huge. And also I run a home care business. So along the line, I'm looking at possibilities of combining home care for seniors and real estate, which means buying properties. It could be apartments and converting them, or maybe building nursing homes and stuff like that, which is real estate and home care at the same time. And somebody even asked a question. So as I'm talking, you can post your questions in the question area. I'll be open to answering all questions. I cannot cover a lot now. Like I said, I've been a member of the Real Estate Investment Network for 3 years, and we go to meetings every month in Calgary. I've been traveling all over the country, attending meetings and seminars all about real estate. I think, thank you, Dutton. I see a picture that was the picture of me last year receiving an award as an innovative investor for Calgary's, for Alberta South. I think that was the first time an African person went on that stage and received an award. And it was an honor, and I want to see more people come up to this level and do things. There's a lot of opportunity in Canada. I once went to a meeting of African people. We talked about business, and in that meeting, the first thing I told them was, welcome to heaven. See, some people thought I was crazy. They thought I had to see a doctor, right? I said, welcome to heaven. The reason I said welcome to heaven, I had to explain to them to understand what I meant. It's simply that, one, Canada has been classified as one of the most livable countries in the whole world. We know that a couple of years ago. That was about 5 years ago, 4. And after that, Calgary was classified as the 4th most livable city in the whole world. So we are living in one of the best countries in the world and one of the most livable cities on the planet Earth. So if there is a heaven on earth, I think we are there. So in Canada, you can have all opportunities. I just like to see it that way. It brings that gratitude, and that gratitude leads to more motivation to do things. I'm not saying other countries are not good, but I prefer to say Canada is one of the best countries on earth. And now it opens up these doors of opportunities. The opportunities in Canada for real estate is so huge. And especially right now with this downturn, with all this, because we study the real estate cycle every month and we have online meetings almost every week. So I'm not gonna take a lot of time. I will be open to all questions at the bottom, and I'm sure after this we'll have other presentations where we'll be picking topics like agreements for sale, which a process is just like Jide initiated it. Those are ways I can buy a property without qualifying for a mortgage, without putting a down payment, and I own the property. I've done that, and it works. We can talk about strategies like flipping. I think Angel initiated it. How to flip, what to do, because at this network we study all these things and when to use them, how to use them, what position of the market can you use it, and things like that. So that's basically what I'm going to touch right now. Like I said, ask questions. There's a question area, ask them. And after this, if you want to contact me, my name is Kennedy Gates. That's what you see on the screen. It's the same on social media, Facebook and Instagram. And I even do TikTok these days. Like I try to adapt to current world, right? The world is changing so fast, it's up to us to adapt. We cannot stop it. So that's it. And to conclude, I would say real estate investing has a tremendous amount of benefits, both for now and for the future. I like the fact that the cash flow I can use to enjoy my life, and I know that the equity and the appreciation is reserved for my retirement, for my kids' future, and for any other eventualities. Thank you. So, yep, I will be looking forward to questions. If you have any feedbacks in the comments, yeah, post the questions, send them, and I will be happy to answer them. Dutton, are you there?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kennedy. I was muted there, so I didn't jump in as quickly as I thought I had. But thanks for telling your story. I really appreciate it. It just tells us that, one, you're a nurse that has gone into the business as a nurse and then has from there gone into real estate. Somebody said, let's clap for this guy. Yeah. So I'm clapping now, I'm clapping.
Okay, just to add, I have one philosophy. Number one, you don't have to know anything to become anything. If you're open-minded to learning, There's a whole lot of things. See, I came to Canada 5 years ago, straight from Africa. I never went to another country. I knew nothing about real estate. I knew nothing about home care. And I've just been open-minded to learning. The first thing is, one, being open-minded, knowing that you can do anything as long as you put in your energy and you believe in it and you do whatever it takes. I say whatever it takes, and I add the word ethically. You don't have to dupe people. You don't have to cheat people in your transaction. But there's a lot of opportunity if you're open to learning. I'm a nurse. I worked as a nurse, but today I run a business. I manage my home care. I don't work as a nurse anymore. How did that switch come? I was just open-minded. So no matter where you are, who you are, you can do anything. You can do real estate and make a lot of profit. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kennedy. So we had sent out a survey earlier on, and the feedback generally was, because the question was simple: what's holding you back? What's the one thing that's the deal breaker that is keeping you out of the real estate game? And the overwhelming majority was financing, and the second one was property management.
Yeah.
A few people talked about tax planning and understanding the market, and then starting from a single person's income. So if we will just spend the next little while, maybe like 5 minutes, we'll take about a minute each, solving financing. Angel, I'll come to you. I know you're a realtor, but financing, what kind of strategies are available for me? I have one income. I earn $60,000 a year, and I have a 9-to-5 job that keeps me working from 9 to 7 every day. How can I get over the financing hurdle?
Okay. So are we talking like trying to purchase another property, and this is a typical situation that you are in? Is that it?
Yeah, and all I'm just trying to do is, I know that my long game is, I want to build a nest egg in the real estate space, but I'm not earning a ton of cash as income, and my job is a bit demanding. So what are the things that I can do? Just basic pointers in your perspective.
So to answer this question, that's a very broad question you're asking. Okay.
I know, I'm aware.
So, okay. So to answer this question, I would just like to have like a very good understanding. I know Kennedy mentioned something about being able to purchase a home without a down payment and stuff. I don't know what the program is into. I don't know what it is, to be honest. I've not been exposed to that. But I do know that there are different ways to handle this. Like when it comes to financing, now, what is the problem? Is it that you don't have the down payment, or it's just about the income? Now, if it's about the income and you're looking to get a mortgage, let's assume you have a property already that you live in, right? So you own this property, you live in there, this is how much you make for an income, and you're looking to see if you can buy something as an investment, okay? Now, what I've done in the past, to the best of my knowledge, right? What I've done in the past is, if the income, like if the bank is gonna say, okay, you already own a property, you've got this huge debt servicing, so you can't qualify for, let's say, a $200,000 condo or townhouse or something like that. So what I've done in the past, and that's just a smart way to go about it, is, okay, where I live currently, I want to rent it out. I want to rent it out, and I want to buy something else to live in, right? So what we've seen happen when it comes to financing is you're able to, get someone who's gonna rent that property from you, for example, or you can even, well, I don't know if this is right for me to say here, but that's way I've seen it, being done in the past. So they get like a lease agreement in place saying someone is gonna rent out the property. Now, this is just for the purpose of getting a mortgage, right? So show that, and then what your income can actually qualify you for. Let's say if you show that property as being, as being rented out, or it's going to be leased for the period, then the bank, some banks, I know BMO, for example, they cancel that lease technically if it covers your mortgage. So it cancels that debt from your profile, kind of. So when you're putting in the mortgage application to get you qualified for another property, for example, so that lease agreement you have in place let's say your current mortgage is $1,600, for example. You have a lease of $1,600 or $1,700. So that amount cancels that property, and it's like that property doesn't exist. And then you can qualify to purchase another one. So that is a way that I've seen it happen. I've also seen situations like if you don't have down payment. I've had those conversations. I have those conversations all the time. I have people who contact me to say, I want to sell my property. I don't want to go all the way out online right now. I don't want it to go on the market, but I'm willing to sell this property. If you have a client who's going to purchase this, I don't mind, covering the down payment. Now, covering the down payment is not them giving you down payment. It's going to be covered in the amount, like added on the amount of that property. That way, you're not coming out with that bulk of money to put down towards the down payment. So talking about financing, if the problem is being able to qualify, these are ways to go about it. Then if you don't own a property and you're just trying to purchase one, to start with, for example, then you have to think about, okay, my income alone is not able to cover this property. So another way to go about it is getting a friend, a family member, someone who has a good income, who can, co-sign with you to help you qualify to purchase the home. So there are just different ways to go about being able to finance your mortgage. I've seen that happen a lot of times. So it depends on what your situation is. Is it the down payment that's a problem? Is it the income? Just a way to understand, but there are ways to definitely go around it. These are just a few examples I want to share. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that gives us a good start. Kennedy, I can see that you really want to say something about this. So talk to us about financing.
Okay, so sorry, I was answering some questions on the question panel, but so the question we're talking here is financing, and I'm just going to answer this. When I look at these answers, like what is the greatest concern about investing in real estate? And the first one was financing, the second, property management, the third, tax planning, fear, understanding the market, and how to start single. You know what I'm going to say is the biggest problem to investing in real estate? Your biggest obstacle is you. Yeah, I mean you. It's not financing. Seriously, I mean it. It's not property management. I totally mean what I say. It's nothing, it's you. The reason I say it's you is because, oh, somebody took away the slide. I needed it, please. Yeah. So the reason I say it's you is simply because sometimes we want to solve problems before we get there. And that's the general way our bodies naturally work. Like we want to do something, it brings up all these things. And of course, your mind is trying to protect you because your mind was designed naturally to protect you from pain and danger. And that's why whenever you bring up an idea, your mind puts up all these obstacles. See, like I said before, you don't have to know anything to do anything. All these things are legitimate for normal people. But if you step into that shoe of change and start rewiring this, and you try not to solve problems before you get there. In business, we don't cross a bridge before we get there. We don't solve problems. We don't want to answer. All your questions will never be answered. But if you get going, if you're so full and you decide to learn consistently, see, financing is not a goal. People always have this idea, I need capital to run a business. But we've all seen that most startups fail in the first 5 years. Right? People borrow money from the bank and after 5 years, they go bankrupt or the business doesn't work. This simply means that you don't need capital to start a business. Instead, you start a business so you can raise capital. And that's the same thing in real estate. You need the knowledge and the mindset and the right people to start real estate. You don't need capital. So if you're waiting to have down payment to start investing in real estate, you're doing the opposite. You have to start investing in real estate by learning, by being here, by changing your mind. And then by doing so, and understanding finances and playing on your personal finances, in a short time, you will have that down payment. So don't do the reverse. Don't wait to have capital to invest. You have to start before getting the capital. Property management, that's something you don't have to worry about if you want to, or that should not hold you, because I always tell myself, if other people are doing it, I will do it. If somebody has done it on planet Earth, I can do it. So let things like property management, taxes, don't even worry about taxes. When you get there, you solve it, right? You cannot understand it now because your situation might be different from the person who's trying to teach you. But the fact is, when you go in fully and start doing it and commit to learning consistently, to changing that mindset, to putting aside all these fears, to putting aside all these unanswered questions and going in, you do better. I said that because at the beginning I thought it was in capital, and then I started, and then I realized that it's not capital. For instance, how does somebody buy 5 houses in 1 year? It's not money, even if they're working on a job and how much money they're making. Now, when I went into a real estate and I realized all these things, see, when you go to the bank or read what the government says, all those rules are there to control people. But I have my group of real estate people. We believe that rules were meant to be broken, right? I said broke the rules, not the law. If you break the law, you end behind bars. Your life is gone. But I like twisting a few rules here and there. For instance, I bought my first house in the first year, and somebody told me you cannot have 2 mortgages in the same year. You need to wait for 1 year. But I broke that rule because I bought the second house in the first year. I thought capital was what it's needed in real estate. But when I did my first agreement for sale, I did not need capital. I bought a house for $10,000. And I can buy a house for $0. It's called an agreement for sale. And apart from that, when you start going into creative joint ventures, you will realize that you can easily draft a good joint venture agreement with somebody who has a down payment but does not know how to do real estate. That person brings a down payment, you bring the other aspects of the real estate, and then you put it together and you own that property 50-50. That person brought the down payment, you qualified for the mortgage but did not have the down payment. And together you do a joint venture where he brings this, you bring the other one. Like I tell my friends sometimes, you can invest with me when you have $0. I just need you to have a regular job and can qualify for a mortgage. You bring the mortgage, I bring the down payment. That could be the reverse. You have the down payment, but you cannot qualify for a mortgage and you don't know how to go about it. And I have the down payment and we do a joint venture. Apart from that, there's still other strategies. I bought a property where at some point the bank twisted things and I needed to put 20% down payment. And we had just 2 days to close that property and I didn't have $45,000. I simply went back to the vendor and negotiated with him and he gave me a loan, and we call that vendor take back. Some rules, the banks might not like it, but as long as you know how to play it in a creative way. That guy borrowed me $45,000 for me to use and buy his property. And I bought his property, rented it out, and spent 1 year paying back his $45,000. And when I was done paying, now the house belongs to me and the equity belongs to me. So there's a lot of different strategies. But I just want to say here, don't let the lack of down payment make you think that you cannot invest. Investment does not start with capital, it starts with the knowledge. Don't let property management even stop you, because when you buy a property, you're going to learn things as they come. And of course, when you commit to consistent personal development, associating with people who've been doing it and who do it, you'd realize that all these things were just imaginary. There's no obstacle. And we can all do it. Sorry, I took more than 1 minute.
You answered the question, because somebody said you should shed more light on how you got 2 houses in 1 year. But I think you said a bit about it, but that seemed to have gotten everybody's interest. So what was it, this kind of specialized arrangements like the vendor take back that made that possible?
I have a question, please.
So,
Sorry, before you answer that, I want you to talk a little bit about income. So in all this, to the best of my understanding and knowledge in this country, you definitely need income. If you're looking for a mortgage, you need the income that can back that. So I want you to touch a little bit on that as well, just to make sure everybody, is kind of aware. So people don't look at it and say, oh, I make $50,000 a year and I can buy 3 properties in 1 year. So just help us, clear that air.
Okay.
Balance that out.
Can I quickly, make a comment before Kennedy goes in?
Okay.
Yeah, of course. And that was because somebody said on the chat board that, he said, are we in the same Canada when Kennedy was there? And it got me laughing, But yeah, somebody who said, he bought 2 houses in 1 year and all of that. Obviously, he doesn't have all the money. And from my experience as a lawyer, and I'm doing this as a corporate and a commercial lawyer, I'm doing real estate, I've seen this happen. Like he said, and I mentioned when I was making my own short presentation, that one of the ways, to handle the issue of not having enough money is the issue of levy. But you need to do it properly. Now, like Kennedy said, you do all you need for a JV, and I've drafted this kind of agreement for somebody. All he had was just the experience. He was able to locate a good property. It was at an opportune time. He saw it. Other people did not see it, and then he located. I know there was value in this, and he called somebody to say, "You have money? Put 100,000. We'll develop this property." They bought the land at the very cheap rate. He didn't buy it. He located it. He got the developer, and he said, "Look, I'm going to supervise the building. You put down the 100,000 to put it down. At the end of the value of the property will be about 300,000. Then we share the deposit." He did not put down any money. All he put down was his experience, his research keys, and his connection. So sometimes the time, putting down money is not everything. Again, Kennedy mentioned the issue of AFS, agreement for sale, and that's what I said. What he said is not very common. And that is why he was talking about education, and this is pretty important. Now, with AFS and some other creative strategies, and again, please, you must know what you are doing. Don't just go into this thing without knowing how to do it, or approaching a long lawyer for that, you burn your hands. Now, with regard to AFS, you may even buy a property for $0. In fact, with AFS, your seller may pay you, may give you money to buy the property from him or from her. Simply because, for instance, I have a closing coming up very recently, and what happened is that this seller is going to sell the property. Now, the balance on the mortgage is more than the price is going to sell the property. What do you do? But she needs to get out of this. Maybe she needs to clean up her credit and some of these things, and she doesn't. She just has to sell. Now, this is the kind of thing that may call for AFS if the property is well located. In this case, this seller will be ready to pay who is buying part of the shortfall, ensure that they just take this mortgage offer. At the end of the day, what happens is that he sells the property, they do an AFS. This person, somebody will take up on the mortgage. The mortgage remains the name of the owner. The person who's doing AFS is not having additional mortgage, is not affecting his credit, but they have a proper agreement structured such that he continues to pay the mortgage. The value, the equity is building up at the end of maybe 4 or 5 years, or they renew the AFS. So there are creative strategies to do this thing without having to put down your own money, but you must just know what you are doing, engage in education, be mentored by people who have been doing this, and this may be key. Be mentored by people who have been doing this. I have people who have what they say they have about $20, $50. They didn't put down all the money, but they just find a way of doing this. And Kennedy may talk a little bit more about that. Thank you. Sorry, before you go on, there's something I needed to mention that I forgot, and this is the issue of when it comes to tax management. And this has to do with if you're investing in property and you are ensure that you include your rental income in your tax filing every time. But in addition to that, ensure that all your expenses regarding your rental investment are not excluded, because there are deductibles that should give you some mileage. For instance, you need to repair the furnace in your rental investment, or you need to replace the furnace. Some people just exclude this and they are leaving money on the table. Again, if you become a non-resident, and this is very key, it is extremely important that you ensure you file your tax in Canada, your rental tax, especially the aspect of it, because when you are going to sell, it's going to create a problem, because you need a certificate of compliance for you to be able to sell without the buyers, or you're holding back about a quarter of the proceeds, from your money. You need the certificate. But if you have not been filing, your tax regarding your rental income, it may become a problem, even though you're a non-resident. It might be a bit technical. Talk to an accountant, talk to a lawyer who knows how to do this thing, and they so that they are operating. You need to now cash out on your investment. You are not having problems. Thank you.
Thanks, Jide, for mentioning taxes. We'll circle back to taxes in a little while. But Kennedy, you are going to say something a bit more about these strategies before Jide interjected.
Yeah, I think Angel, I wanted me to touch about income, your
Yes,
income, because you need to consider that. And
and that's
I
very
would say
important
here
for
that,
us.
yeah, it's very important. And like I said, if you go into real estate as a business, you will handle it as a business. I like to see real estate because some people, when you ask people what business, what do you do, and they say I invested, they don't call it a business. Real estate is a business. Like treat it like a business, because I treat my tenant like clients, because I know how much they're bringing to me every month. If you treat it like a business, you would like to increase your chances of succeeding. Now, looking at it from the business side, income definitely counts, especially if you have to qualify for more mortgages. But going into the study, the in-depth study of creative investing in real estate, I would just touch some few points here. There's a lot I could talk about investing and qualifying for mortgages, because that's where the income comes. How much do you make and how can you qualify? Now, when it comes down to qualifying for mortgages, we generally have lenders classified in different categories. Like for instance, in Canada, we have the big banks. I think there are 5 of them. Everybody knows those banks. And then from those lenders, we've got the B lenders, we've got the C lenders, and we even go down to the D lenders. So this means that every category has its own conditions. And if you are going into real estate by first of all learning the knowledge before investing, you can position yourself to maximize your future investing. So if you want to go to 10, 15 properties and you start with the wrong lender, it could affect the chances of you getting more mortgages. But knowing that this bank is classified as an A lender, and this is the maximum number of mortgages they can give one person. And then these other people are B and C lenders, and they're more flexible. They don't even care about your active income. They can play around and still give you the mortgage, although their interest rates might be different. So in my years of investing, I use different lenders depending on the condition and the situation at that point. Say if I'm dealing with a bank, I bank with RBC, I bank with Scotia, I bank with TD. Is this the right time to get my mortgage with TD? Because I know that maybe I have just 3 or 4 opportunities with them, and that's the cap they can give me. So I maybe don't not want to use it. I'm going to use this person first before I come here. So when you start working with experts who've been doing this for so long, you will understand why somebody has 50 properties. Normally, conventionally, nobody should qualify for 50 properties, regardless of their income, except they're making $10 million every month. But you see people having 50 properties. It simply means they understand how to play the market. Which strategy should I use at this point? And what's my long-term plan? Because if you have a different long-term and you don't start properly, you block the other chances. And now when it comes to other strategies like agreements for sale, I typically like agreements for sale because they don't go into my mortgage portfolio. When I do an agreement for sale, I legally own that property, but it's not considered part of my portfolio. So if I have 3 mortgages through the banks and I have 4 other properties as agreement for sale, my portfolio still shows 3. So the bank can still give me a 4th without considering it on, because that mortgage is still in that person's name. So what's an agreement for sale? An agreement for sale is simply a situation where, like right now, the economy is bad. People are struggling. They don't know the future. Some people bought their houses 5 years ago. And normally in real estate, when you buy a house within the first 5 years, your equity is not good enough for you to sell that house. If you sell that house within the first 5 years, if you're not lucky enough, you're going to lose money. So you will take out money from your pocket and put down in order to get rid of a house. So you will not even have your down payment. So some people get into that situation where their life suddenly changes. They have to move, or they've divorced or something, and have to get rid of that house, and they don't have equity. So if the equity you have in the house is $30,000 and you want to sell that property, you have to renovate that property. It could cost you $5,000 to $10,000. You have to pay a realtor for doing that. They have a percentage in it. You have to pay a lawyer. And if you factor out all these things and your net equity is $30,000, you are either gonna lose or maybe sell that house and come out with $0. So as an investor, when I see somebody with such a property and they want to sell, I can come to them and like, okay, let's do the math. If you sell this property, you end up taking out $5,000 from your pocket in order to get rid of this house. What if I could take over this mortgage in a legal way without you losing $5,000, and I could still even give you $10,000 and you go. So instead of losing their money, they have a chance of making a little bit of money. And now the whole system is about getting a lawyer who knows how to do an agreement for sale. An agreement for sale simply means that I am taking over the remainder of your mortgage till the term is over, and I'll get my own mortgage and buy over that house. And in order for me to do so, you have to give me a full power of attorney on that house. That's where it gets tricky, because that person gives me an irrevocable power of attorney. They cannot come back tomorrow and say they changed their mind. And when it means full power of attorney, it means I can sell that house anytime without consulting him. And this goes into the land title of the property, because when the lawyer finishes it, he files it with the city, and my name appears on the land title with a full power of attorney. That alone gives me all rights to manage that property. I can sell it, I can change construction, I can do anything, which is a very cool strategy. Imagine doing that without qualifying for a mortgage, without putting a down payment, and without it going onto your portfolio. Because once you, when you add properties onto your portfolio, you reduce the chances of getting more mortgages. So those are the ways we play around to deal with this income thing. So if your income is 50,000, you could still buy several houses by knowing how, firstly, how to position the various lenders. Which lender am I going to use at what point? Some lenders have different, most lenders have different. Conventional banks almost have the same conditions. But when you start going down, I have a mortgage with equitable, how do we call it? So like even credit unions provide mortgages, all those lenders. So it's by using the lenders in place with your own goal. Where do you want to go to? And a specialist can break it down. If you want to do this, this is where you start, so you don't mess up the possibilities of getting future mortgages. And also, working with the right people really matters. Like sometimes I go to if a real estate agent is not investor focused, I generally don't like working with them. If they don't understand a little bit of real estate, I had to quit my job 4 years ago, my nursing job. I actually suspended my nursing license. People ask me, why would you suspend it? I say, I don't need it. I know how to create my future. I know how to make money. I don't need to work on a job to make money anymore. When I did that, I knew it was going to affect me qualifying for mortgages, because once you become self-employed, the big banks really don't like you anymore that much. They don't like you like before. They like people with regular jobs, steady income, pay stubs, and everything. So I had to weigh, would I prefer to keep laboring on this job so I can qualify for mortgage, or would I prefer my freedom and make money and use other strategies to get it? I chose the freedom part, to manage my own stuff. But then it made it harder for me to qualify, so which means that I now opened up to learning these creative strategies and maybe partnering with other people and maybe using other lenders who would not mind lending money to me without expecting me to have a regular paycheck. So those, I hope I was able to touch some few answers regarding financing and qualifying and stuff.
Yes, you are. That I found out. I personally have found these answers you have provided very informative. Particularly the ability to be able to get into multiple arrangements without 2 pay stubs and a letter from your employer. That's very useful information, and thank you for providing that. Now,
and can I just touch one thing? I just want to touch on the point where Jide talked about joint venture. You get to a point where you master joint ventures. You can now attract people, because once you learn and understand real estate, I have invested hundreds of hours going to real estate meetings and seminars and stuff. Now with all that, that's an asset. That's what you can bring in partnership. Just like Jide mentioned, you can easily find somebody in Nigeria or somewhere or in Canada who really does not have that time to invest and learn that, but they have the money. And all they need is the money, because if you have money sitting in your bank account or a good credit line, and I tell you that this money is producing this small amount of interest for you. But if you invest in this real estate and we share the profit 50-50, you're still going to get 10 times more than what you're making on that money at that time. They will bring the money, and I bring the knowledge, I bring the expertise, I manage the property, and I give them a report every quarterly, every 4 months of how the property has been going and the cash flow. And at the end of the day, we sell the property, we share the profit from the equity and from the capital appreciation. So it's about positioning, getting people. Usually your finances is important, but without the personal finances, you could still walk around through agreements for sale, partnership with other people, and still make money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm looking at the questions that we got from the survey now. I think the only thing that we haven't really said a lot about is the tax side of things. And being the accountant, I think I'll just quickly take the tax plug. So tax implications when you buy a property, you have particularly if you've been around for a bit and you've made some country and you have some cash that you've put into an account. If you have been able to build some contribution room in your RRSP, for example, and you've been able to fund it, your RRSP becomes how would I put it? A tax-driven institution that you can use to fund your down payment. So that's one way that having made contributions to your RRSP, for example, can give you a leg up at the point of acquisition. Now, when you own an investment property, of course, the implication is that you're going to report rental income every year. So you collected rent, people have paid you rent, and you are reporting to the government that you've earned that rental income. It's expected that you don't just, rather, I'd expect your accountant to advise you that apart from the rental income that you're going to disclose, you are also going to disclose the associated expenses. So those expenses include, but are not limited to, the cost of maintenance, whether you have done a major work or minor work, a paint job, you've had a handyman visit, you've had to change some window or some ceiling or some roofing or something like that. You've had to spend some money on the cleaning, either because a tenant moved out or a tenant moved in, or some major event happened that required you to clean the place up. Or maybe it's just a place that you have what do I call it now? You have somebody who comes to care for the lawn or clean the place up every couple of weeks, and you're the one paying for that. Those are all expenses that you're going to report. You're also going to report the mortgage interest that you pay on the rental property. That's a deductible expense as far as rental income is concerned. And then if you visit the place, so say for example, like the place is halfway across town, and you visit the place every quarter or every other month, the cost of that trip is definitely something that you can write off as a valid business expense. In addition to that, if you join any of these organizations, either you join the real estate network that Kennedy belongs to or any other one, the cost of any education training that you're getting to help support and grow your real estate business becomes a valid expense that you can deduct. And whether those events you attended were attended in country, out country, wherever they happened, they become valid business expenses that you can write off. So when you think about it from that perspective, and of course, there's what we call capital cost allowance, which is the notional cost the government recognizes as the cost of use of a rental property. So those are all costs that you would write off against your rental income when you have an investment in real estate. Now, at the point of disposal, of course, when you purchase the property, the government required you to notify you or maintain a record of the cost, right, of the cost of that property at the point of acquisition. And that's because they are waiting for you at the point of sale because of what is known as capital gains tax. Kennedy mentioned Kennedy and Angel actually both alluded to capital gains that you would experience when you buy property. Because as far as the government is concerned, the general consensus is that real estate always appreciates. So when you're disposing of a property 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, you may have as much as 100% appreciation. That's rare these days, but it's possible. So the government says if you bought a house for 100,000, and you sold it for 200,000, then you have $100,000 in capital gains. The government is going to allow you to keep half of that money. They won't bother you about half. But the other 50,000, they're going to share it with you, and they're going to tax that 50,000 at your marginal tax rate. So say, for example, you earn somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000, and your marginal tax rate is 39%. Then the government is going to take, what's that now, 19,500 of your the second $50,000 on your $100,000 capital gain, and they will allow you to keep the rest. So those are the key junctures, or the key, those are the, how do I put it? That's the tax implication basically at the key junctures of property ownership. Of course, in running a business, right, we could find ourselves in a situation where there could be other things. So say, for example, your real estate investment is in commercial property. Commercial real estate always includes the transaction taxes, which is not considered when we are dealing with residential real estate. So on the back of that, if you are dealing with commercial real estate, then you have to recognize your spend on GST, right? And recognize your collections of GST as well from your tenants. And you would notify the government every year how much GST you've collected, how much GST you've paid, and then pay them the difference, or they will pay you the difference depending on what those numbers are. Most of the time you will end up paying them, right? So those are the key tax indicators that come to mind right now. But I guess as questions come in, we'll be able to further discuss them. But one thing I just want to draw everybody's attention to is something that Kennedy has said over and over and over again today, and that's the need for personal development. There's no point telling yourself you want to be a real estate investor if you are just going to keep repeating that mantra in your head. I want to be a real estate investor. I want to be a real estate investor. Saying that 1 million times over and over does not make you one. But the day you sit down and buy a book, read about it, attend a seminar, read, listen to people who know talk. There was Kennedy sitting down, feeling cool with his 2 properties, and then somebody got up and said he owned 64 doors. Boom! It's a life-changing experience. So listening to him talk right now, I'm like, okay, Kennedy's been in this game for 5 years already, and he doesn't even have a day job anymore. Then I need to move. I need to make a move. So I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is what's going on in the gray matter. What are you thinking? And what are you doing with your thinking? Don't sit down and think for too long. Take action. Thank you for coming here today, because this is a first step. The next step now becomes, do you want to find a community to join? Do you want to find resources that you can start to lean heavily on, because there is a need to educate yourself? If somebody like Kennedy can come and say, hey, you know what, I don't think that your problem is money, and I don't think that your problem is managing the property, and I don't think your problem is managing the relationships, and I don't think your problem is qualifying for the mortgage, then what is it? And he's saying all you need to do is change how you think. So learn, unlearn, relearn. And I think that's basically the most important part. And I've been able to speak so comfortably about taxes because that's what I do. My name is Dr. Adele Bamshai. I'm an accountant, and I do quite a lot of tax work for entrepreneurs and business people. I'm growing my real estate portfolio. So, Kennedy, if you're looking for another accountant to add to your portfolio, you can talk to me after this. So we still have a few other questions. Judy, I'll ask you to take this because I know it is legal. So define an illegal basement suite.
Well, it's simple. An illegal basement suite is simply a suite that is illegal. Anyway, it is simply a basement that does not have the required permit, for development. Before you develop your basement, if it doesn't come with permit for development from the get-go when the developer was developing it, then you need to have the city permit, to develop that basement further. Because they have their specification for what the window, the diameter of the windows will be, the kind of the number of rooms you can put in that place, whether they will permit you to put a kitchen, or a washroom in the basement, and I have a scenario recently where the city refused. They put a window, but the city says that the window is not big enough in case there's a fire and somebody needs to escape through the window. So these are some of the things, and if you don't do it at the right time, they can come after you, and then, like I said the other time, it can impact on your on your investment. So you need to get permit, to develop your basement. Even if you are doing a major renovation to that basement, you need to have something in another room or put a washroom there. You still need permit. So that is. But recently, I think they are trying to make the process of what they call this.
Secondary suites.
I've forgotten the term they use for it now. Secondary suite.
Secondary suite,
to make it, easier, to get. Formally, it's a bit more complex. It's a bit more difficult. They have to, when you apply, they have to publish in your area to see somebody is trying to develop a basement. The people have proposition to it, and then they wait for some time to expire before they now proceed. But they are not trying to make this, because of this shortage situation at the point in time, they are trying to make the situation simple. And I think they have been doing that recently, but honestly, I don't know how far they've gone with regard to the procedure. But I think they've liberalized a bit more. It doesn't have to go through their committee at the city before they do some of these things. They just have a new set of people to do it, in-house, without having to go through the all rigorous process before. But whatever the case, for secondary school, you need a permit. For basement development, even if it's not for rental purpose, you still need a permit, to do it. I do know as a lawyer that some people do it, without getting the permit. They get it done and they put people there. But if you are doing something illegal, it's illegal, you should know how to manage it. But the right way, what I know as a lawyer, and I won't advise you, even if I know the wrong way, I won't tell you openly, is to get the permit that you need to get. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jide. Kennedy.
Yeah, so I would say, like you said, an illegal suite is an illegal suite.
That's an area where I really specialize now. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Hello?
We can hear you. Oh.
Okay. I think my AirPods are running out of juice. But okay, so illegal suites are quite an issue, but at this point, yeah, people should really not be concerned, because firstly, the city just made conditions easier. And like Jide was saying, they've even approved backyard suites on your garages now. So in Calgary, you can actually have a garage with another suite on top. At this point, they had a deadline for this year for illegal suites, which means they wanted all basements to be converted to legal, but they just postponed it again, which means people still have time. And at this point, the main thing they're considering is mostly windows and access and exits in case of an emergency. So that's what they're considering now. But when that short period, I think it expires next year or the end of this year, when that period ends, they're going to start looking at other things like what's the furnace, because in some cases they would need the two suites to have two separate furnaces heating up the house. So most things we look at now is when you're buying a property. I personally like basement suites because those are the kind of properties I invest in. Most houses, when you buy a single property and rent to one family, it's hard for that income to cover all the cost of keeping that property. So I like basement suites because if I can rent the basement to a separate family, to one family, and rent the main floor to another family, and in most cases we even rent out garages separately. So you're trying to maximize your income so that you can increase your cash flow. So basement suites are my stuff. I have not really been renovating or converting them because I like buying properties that already have legal suites. Normally, if it's legal, you would see in the land title or in the property documents that it's a legal suite. And if you're taking a suite that is not legal, be prepared to have some money and a plan in place to convert into a legal suite so you can run your business smoothly. Remember, it's a business. If you play it right, you don't get a lot of trouble. But if you don't consider things, you could run into trouble with the city or with other people, and then it can end up costing you a lot of dollars.
So while we are having this conversation, what's the difference between a secondary suite and the mother-in-law suite? Because I've heard those two terminologies used.
I would like to say it's just an appellation. It's just how people call it. Some people like to call it secondary suite. Some people like to call it a basement. Some people like to call it a lower suite. Normally, in most of my situation, a secondary suite is just a suite that is found in the basement that is not part of the main house that is above ground, which could be like the suite that is found in the backyard on top of a garage. Because now in Calgary, we have the possibility of building a garage and building another suite on top of the garage. I've actually seen a few houses in the Southwest already doing that. So that is simply a suite that is not part of the main structure of the house that was above, but which can still be legal.
To answer Dr. I think, like Kennedy was saying, is about the same thing. But why they call it mother-in-law suite is simply because it's a way to keep mother-in-law from populating the affairs of the couple. So they lock the mother-in-law downstairs, I mean, at the basement.
As a good Nigerian joke. Okay. So I think there are a number of questions in the Q&A area. I don't know if there's anyone that has not been responded to. Okay, somebody says Jide was AFX. I think that's AFS, right? And that's
I think I've answered it, and I think Kennedy has also provided some particular. It's basically, an agreement for sale. That's the AF agreement for sale, but it's a bit technical in the sense that when you are doing your normal agreement, the purchase agreement, it must be stated to be closing by way of AFS. Otherwise, there could be trouble. And then there are nuances, Kennedy mentioned about issue of obtaining that part of the deal will be that there will be irrevocable power of attorney, and it's irrevocable. There's a difference between power of attorney, revocable, and irrevocable. Irrevocable in law is supposed to be coupled with an interest, in the sense that you have offered the consideration, which is the money you paid, to the seller, and to grant you that, and that makes it impossible for the seller to revoke the power of attorney, which will enable you to sell the property or do anything, rent it out without the seller's consent. Now, the other thing you can do is to file a caveat at the land titles office to indicate, if you are not doing irrevocable power immediately, is to file a caveat to indicate that you have an interest in that property, because the property remains in the name of the seller. Even though he has technically sold it to you, it remains the name of the seller. So you need a kind of security to ensure that the seller is unable to sell the property. Otherwise, again, that's why we said it's important to deal with people who know how to really do this kind of thing. Otherwise, you may run into trouble. Now, you need to file a caveat to indicate that whoever is buying the property wants to the property must contact you before they can do anything. And at that point, they know they have to pay you out if they have to, if he must sell. Even then, of course, you're not going to be able to sell. So this is important, and it involves, some technical nuances. I had to spend some thousands of dollars to attend the course to even to know how to how to arrange this kind of transaction, documentation and all of that. So you need to work with somebody who knows how to do this. No lawyers who are interested in this area of commercial, real estate, creative practice. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Jide, I'm still going to go back to you. There's something that changed significantly this, probably the week before, with the rules by CMHC. Can you share briefly how this would impact real estate investors?
I don't. What exactly is the rule?
The ratio, the gross income to debt service ratios changed. There was a bit of those numbers that they moved around.
I think basically a mortgage broker will be able to explain that better than a lawyer. But basically, what is, and it's a problem because it's been coming up for some time, and the reason is that I think and they developed these parties where, because of the hot property market initially in Ontario and BC. And that's because people were just buying property without being able to service debt at the end of it. So they were looking, they were defining what your debt service ratio will be with regards to your income. If you don't have a specific, if your income is lower than a specific percentage, that means you will not qualify for mortgage. And that reduces the number of people available in the market to douse the kind of, the skyrocketing property prices. And that is why some real estate brokers are saying that such kind of a situation is, because it's a blanket stuff for the whole of Canada. Meanwhile, it's more applicable to places like Ontario and BC, and it's going to be affecting property market in Calgary, in Alberta, which is already down, negatively, making less people to qualify and all of that. And if you are going to be a real estate investor, this is like where this other means of financing your real estate comes in.
Okay, so that means my interpretation of what you just said is that even though I may not have the income, all these other, the JV agreement, AFS, vendor take back become very relevant tools that I can use to upscale my portfolio during this time.
Absolutely. But
Because,
if I may also quickly jump in, because you mentioned about vendor take back, which is balance is VTB. Many lenders don't like vendor take back. It's a bit different from AFS and JV. Because the moment you say vendor take back simply means that the vendor sells the property to you and is going to lend you part of the money, part of the down payment to buy the property, in the sense of not collecting the full property price. And so what it does is to now, at the end of the day, go and file a caveat against your title, or do a secondary mortgage against your title at the land titles office. Now, lenders warn their lawyers that if they are aware of any VTB, any vendor take back, they must not proceed. They must get the consent of the lender to do this. So except you don't disclose, and again, I'm careful, I'm not going to be saying don't do it. The moment you disclose to your lawyer that you have a VTB coming up, the lawyer is obligated to inform the lender that somebody is trying to put a secondary mortgage. And as a matter of fact, one of the documents you sign when you are signing with a lawyer is, especially from these mono lenders, you must state that there is not going to be a secondary mortgage on that property. You swear an affidavit that there's not going to be a secondary mortgage. But if you are doing a VTB, then that means there's going to be a secondary mortgage. And if that is the case, you cannot proceed with that transaction. So it becomes a problem. So the best thing, I don't know, I'm not saying this, and I don't want to say.
If you're not saying this, you're not saying it. Okay, I get that.
The more you tell your lawyer, there's going to be a vendor take back this, that deal probably will not go ahead. So please don't tell me. I don't want to know. If I don't know, I see no here. If I don't know, I have no problem. But if I know, it's going to be a problem, because I also have my license to, my law license to protect.
Yeah, I understand that. Fantastic. I think we've answered all the questions in the Q&A section. Thank you, gentlemen, for proactively doing that, even though I was not following it. But what I'll try and do after this is that I'll share the questions in the Q&A section. I'll share those via email with everybody who registered on Eventbrite. And I want to thank all the panelists, starting with Angel, who is the lady among them. Thank you very much for giving us 2 hours and a little bit of your Saturday. We really appreciate it. Your insights have been excellent. The knowledge is fantastic. Jide, in his quiet manner, has kept everybody on their toes, and Kennedy has motivated everybody to go and think about how we can increase the number of doors. So thank you to every one of you. I really appreciate you. And to all the 80+ people who signed in for this webinar, I want to thank you. Appreciations to you for registering, for taking the time, for listening, and for making use of this knowledge. Yeah, happy birthday to Angel's daughter tomorrow. Yeah, thank you to, you're welcome. So thank you to everyone who made the time.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If I may mention, as we are just kind of giving back, I don't know if it's permitted, I'm willing to offer up to between 10 and 12% on anybody's doing this transaction through our law firm, to close the transaction on our legal fees. And the people should, but if you are going to take advantage of that, please let me know if my paralegal is dealing with you to say that you are from this seminar, and that there's the coupon code is side gig 20.
Side gigs and extra bar is the passcode to 15%, 10 to 12% with JK Law on your real estate deals. Just share the news. I will share that. I'll put that in the email. I will put that in the email. Thank you, Jide, for providing that. That definitely makes a difference for some people. And so I think that's it. I have put the contact information of everyone, all the presenters. But before we go, I want to acknowledge all the groups from which attendees have come. The Calgary Niger PR Citizens WhatsApp group, Network of Nigerians in Canada, Life in Canada WhatsApp group, the Girls Hangout WhatsApp group, the GTA Connect WhatsApp group, PwC Alumni in Canada, Edmonton's Greatest WhatsApp group, Destination Alberta, Calgary Connect Telegram group. Come back here, where are you going? Sorry, my screen just failed on me, which is unusual. The ITL network and the Niger lawyers in Canada. So thank you very much to everyone in those groups. We really appreciate your support. Over the next little bit, I'm going to leave the contacts. Can you guys still see the contact of the lawyers? Or are you just seeing a black screen?
Black screen. Seeing a black screen.
Okay.
Just black screen.
I don't know what's going on now. This is
black screen.
I will stop sharing and then I will. Yeah.
Now I can see a breach with a black head.
What's going on here?
And I think it's you.
Yes, it's me. It's me. Just give me a minute here. So I'm just going to put the contacts of our presenters up so that everybody can see that. And I'm going to. Can we see that now?
No, we can't see anything.
You still seeing it? All you're still seeing is a black screen.
Yes, still a black screen.
Zoom is playing games with me this afternoon, but I'll be fine.
Or you can put it in the chat room if you're having challenge.
Okay, I will. You know what? I will share the contacts of all the panelists via email after this. But I want to just thank every single one for coming out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to sharing more good information so that we are getting stronger physically, mentally, financially as a community, both at home and abroad. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And remember, as you go, if there is a heaven on earth, you are there right now. Take advantage of the opportunities.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You set my soul on fire. So many girls that pass through. None of the girls find passing. So many things you've been through. Promise life will not be the same again. Wouldn't be the same again. You'll never be the same again. You'll never be the same again. Never be the same again. No mind them, then they lie to you. The talk say me I'm too bad for you. No mind them, then they lie to you. The talk say my heart a glass, someone don't break it, oh, break it, oh, break it, oh. Different time, wait it, oh. When I'm on a take it, oh. When your ways will be ready, oh, rotate it. Baby, me and wait it, oh, wait it. When your ways are dirty, oh. Baby, girl, make you know the lie. Make it tell your friends, see they feel this guy. Don't even waste time. Cause now me you go follow till the day we die. But meanwhile, I can't wait to make your face just smile. It's not a lie. You set my soul on fire. pass through. None of the girls find pass you. So many things you've been through. Promise life will not be the same again. No. Wouldn't be the same again. You'll never be the same again. You'll never be the same again. No. Never be the same again. Greatness. DJ Neptune. Joe boy one day. Go to buffet. No my get so come on love back. Body on check. I thought I don't mind the bad them.